Hello, my name is Chris Bennett, and this is an invitation presentation to an event that I'd like to create on the topic of depression. I've been working on this subject for 20 years, specifically starting back when I began doing a lot of research into the subject at UCLA. My father was a professor of medicine at UCLA until around that time for 35 years. So he is a pioneer in the field of healthy living, and he's 87 now, and unfortunately none of the doctors learned from his experience and his wisdom, and they ended up poisoning him, and he's crippled right now. I'm taking care of him. It's a full-time job. But the purpose of this event is to fix that. So the medical system won't pay for my dad's care for his rehabilitation after the doctors poison him, the University of California doctors, his peers. So the purpose of this event is to reveal his findings and mine and a lot of other incredible doctors who I've been in contact with over the last 20 years and who I invited to participate in this discussion. So some of them would probably be happy to participate in some of our events. So I really want to mention Jamie Twerkowski. I got to learn that one. He knows the cure for depression. It's just simply written about in his story of how he launched his organization to write Love on His Arms with Jared Padalecki. Jared and Jensen, I'm big fans of you guys. I love the show, Supernatural. I know Sam, you know you guys as Sam and Dean, but I'm still learning your actors' names. I've watched, your real names. I've watched probably a third of the shows, Supernatural, over the last 15 or so years, and I didn't get to see the ending yet, but I love the show. It's really well done, and all the actors are just so well, talented, every single one of them. But what's really important about that show is that you can learn about the cause and the cure for depression in the episodes. So, as I said, Jamie knows all about the cure, but he doesn't talk about the cause, at least in the one document I saw on his website. But I'd like to create this event to both fund him, but also to fund his vision. So very, very simply, the cure for depression is to treat it. Treat it. Make treatment freely available. So the reason why there's so many people that are depressed all over America is because there's no free, effective treatment. And Jamie is a lot better. He's right on with his treatment for depression. And so for 20 years, I've been working on creating the same type of treatment and getting it funded. And I found out why it is not getting funded, and it won't be unless we take a stand and ask that it be funded. I'm 56 now, I think. 57? Okay, 57. All right, just turned 57, December 3rd. And my whole life I've been witnessing the consequences of depression. My dad was depressed when he married my mom. He was getting work 24-hour shifts. That's what they do to doctors. They turn doctors into just emotional zombies by working them 24-hour shifts in their training and overstressing them. So they become insensitive and depressed. And so for my dad, it was depression, anger, and some violence when we were growing up. It affected all of us. So it's pretty simple. And I figured out a way to simplify it. Bad news stress turns off happy chemicals in our brains. That's the cause of depression. So, one sentence. If you look on Google, search that phrase in quotes and it'll come up with my name and 2 other results, I think, with my name on them. But there's a lot of reasons why most people don't understand that simple idea, but there are a lot of them that do. So the stress is the key issue. So my father wrote this book, in 12 weeks you can control your high blood pressure without drugs. And here he is on the back. It was published in 1984 and endorsed by more top health experts than any health book you've ever seen. So it was endorsed by the top expert in the world on high blood pressure, Dr. Norman Kaplan at University of Texas. So 2 professors at Harvard, 3 at UCLA, including Norman Cousins. So Norman Cousins had a similar idea that Jamie has, which is that positive emotions, anatomy of an illness, reflections on healing and regeneration. My dad met him. So his story is he got really, really sick. The doctor said, you're going to die in 3 months. There's no cure, there's no treatment. And he went home to, die. And then he thought, well, I've been under a lot of stress, so maybe positive emotions. So he watched a bunch of positive TV shows, laughed a lot, stayed in a hotel room, took a vacation in a hotel, a nice hotel, probably a lot of other things like massage. And it worked. He got better, and he wrote the book about it. And he got a, honorary doctorate degree, and became a professor of medicine at UCLA. So that's the cure for depression. Here I am freezing out here in the cold. Right behind me, Wells Fargo. Okay, so I started working with my dad 20 years ago, and he was working at Healthcare Partners in Southern California. It's one of the biggest groups of doctors in the United States. Well, he was one of the founders of it, and so they were working him to death, 70 hours a week. He developed a heart condition, atrial fibrillation. They put him on drugs, UCLA doctor. It was getting worse, and he said, you might need heart surgery. So I went to UCLA, and I started reading all about health and stress, and I just ended up with a big stack of documents that says that was caused by stress. You get under huge amounts of stress, because you're taking care of dying patients every day, and their hysterical families, and all those patients are dying from taking too many drugs. They're taking a bunch of drugs. My dad used to always cut down all the drugs. And so I showed the studies to him, and he immediately retired, and he created a foundation called No More Medicines. He cashed out of his company and got $4 or so million. Then this person at Wells Fargo came along, this really cute lady, convinced him to put all the money in a charity, which is a good idea, but then with their oversight, a big group of thieves signed on and spent and burned through $1 million. Then lots of other fees and high interest, another $1 million by Wells Fargo. It's complicated, but burned through all that money. So there's a connection. I'm going to connect all the dots. When there's people in the world who are super, super depressed. It's an epidemic. And they behave in a certain way that causes stress for other people. So people at the top who are super callous and, hard-hearted, they are traumatized themselves, and it makes them not have a connection to their soul. And so they can't feel for others. So that's why the world is so messed up, and that's why there's so much depression and suffering and all the associated problems.